Okay. So I'm Marion Glenn. I live in Freeville, and I've been working on the Dryden Rail Trail tree planting ideas. And I'm a member of Trees Up Tompkins, which is an organization that likes to plant trees.
Oh, great.
Right.
Nice to
Cool.
meet you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Christina.
Great. So if you know everybody else, then we can skip the rest of the introductions. That sounds fine. So I did just turn on the cloud recording as well. So are there any additions or changes to the agenda? Okay, so we'll proceed with that. So moving to the minutes from the August Rail Trail Task Force meeting. First, thank you so much, Rose, for all the work that you do. These are really, it's a lot of work and they're really great. So does anybody have any changes or additions to the minutes?
I've got a couple if I could.
Okay, Tony.
It says Jim Shrugtail, and I think it'd be nice to call it Shug as SCHUG, because I'm sure that was a word correction. That's on the second page. On the third page, which I found quite entertaining, it says Marion will guide this project as Judy is still recovering from Lyme disease with consultation assistance from Todd. That means he's helping with the Lyme disease. If you put a comma after disease, it would change it.
Thank you. That does need correcting.
Welcome,
That's a good
Steve.
one.
Hello, good evening.
All right, so we're just getting started, Steve.
I went to the town hall. I didn't realize it was only online.
Oh, sorry about that. We're just going over the August agenda or the August meeting minutes. Was that it, Tony?
Yes, that was it. Yes, thank you.
That's it. Okay.
Any other corrections to the minutes? So I have one, Rose.
Okay.
Through the project management committee, the second paragraph, kind of mid paragraph, it says a bid package has been submitted to DOT that excludes some utility work that will be done by Dryden DPW. So to clarify, the utility work got dropped from the scope of the project, and the railing work is to be done by DPW.
Okay, so change utility to railing.
Change, well,
Utility and rate.
the first part is correct. A bid package has been submitted to DOT that excludes some utility work, period. The railing work will now be done by DPW or something like that.
Okay.
Okay. With those corrections, if there aren't any other changes suggested, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Yes.
Tony, do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Susan, all in favor? Great,
Okay.
thank you all.
Thank you.
All right. So, so moving on to the next items, project management committee. And Chris and Diane, you guys were there as well. So if there's other items here, you feel free to jump in and chime in on. Dan isn't here. I think he said at the last meeting that he's got a conflict by teaching a class at this time, which is why thank you, Christina, for joining us. So I'll just do the update on the Route 13 bridge in his absence. So there isn't a lot to report. The Erdman Anthony revised the project scope as we just discussed and submitted it to DOT. And we're essentially waiting on their review and approval for that. And we heard that there was some other time-sensitive funding things that they were that they queued up before this, which made us a little bit frustrated in their prioritization process, given how long this project has been protracted and the changes are fairly minor. So I think that Dan reached out to them to reiterate our interest in a timely approval for the project so we can move ahead. So that's about all that I know where things stand. And I do know that as soon as we hear back, or that Ray would hear back, that he would let us know. And I just was chatting with Ray late this afternoon to set up the Zoom call, and there was no new news on the Route 13 Bridge DOT approval. So unfortunately, there's not much more on that, and that's kind of where that stands. So if there aren't any other questions or comments, we can move to the next item. Gwen is joining us. Welcome, Gwen. So, all right, I did actually pull up the agenda, so I should share that here as part of this. So now we're still on Project Management Committee Phase 3 Planning Consultant meeting. So we had a very constructive meeting with Paul and Amy from Erdman Anthony last week, and walked through the map set that they had provided for the 3 alternatives for Phase 3 planning, which is essentially Pinckney Road to Johnson, and with feedback that we received from the full committee and also from our project management committee that met previously, we provided Erdman Anthony with some small changes to the maps, mostly clarifying, and they incorporated those changes into the redesigned maps. So some of these were how properties were portrayed vis-a-vis, like if the proposed alignment was on a property for somebody that had granted us an easement for the rail bed, but part of the alternative deviated from the rail bed, it shouldn't show it on the map that we have that easement. It should show that like as a new category, essentially a category of this owner provided us an easement for the rail bed, and that's it. And if we needed to go beyond the rail bed, we would need to get a new easement or an amended easement. So it shouldn't just be assumed that because they gave us a rail bed easement that we could have an easement elsewhere on their property. So that kind of change was made to the map. And we clarified what we understood where the easements that were necessary, and we made one change to another category for one property owner where it was shown as the designation was possible to unlikely. And with that, we felt fairly confident that we had the three most viable alternatives through those revised maps. And then went to kind of the next topic, which was the matrix, and how we are going to get information relative to each of those. And I'll pull up a screen and we can kind of talk about that. But I wasn't really planning to bring it up the maps or to go into executive session or anything like that tonight, or to talk about individual properties. So if folks are interested in doing that, we can talk about that, but that wasn't something I was planning on doing unless there was a real interest in that. So Chris or Diane, do you want to add anything more about the that part of our discussions with Paul and Amy before we get into the matrix?
I think probably the only thing is just to remind people that option one was alternative one was the rail trail on the rail the way we would really like it to be. Option two just had a little jog to avoid one red property, in other words, property where we might encounter resistance. And then option three was, the long scenic route. And we did avoid going over Route 13 as the original route alternative 3 had suggested. Twice.
Yeah, so thanks, Diane. When we got the original maps, Erdman Anthony was following like explicitly what we had said, and then we realized that we needed to put in new criteria, like we don't want to have to build any more bridges over highways or creeks because it'll add a decade plus to the project. So then we went back and clarified that was kind of a superseding limitation that we needed to put on this project to make it more reasonable for the rest of the planning to happen. So no additional major, like we're not building a bridge over Fall Creek, or we're not building bridges over Route 13 in any of the alternatives.
And Scott, is it correct to assume that our hope is that alternative 2 and 3 will end up being so astronomically more expensive and time consuming than alternative 1 that that will be the one that's going to make the most sense?
Well, that's part of the conversation that we want to have next. So if there aren't any questions about where we are with the mapping, let me share the evaluation matrix. I'll say the draft evaluation matrix with the task force.
Before
to
you
get
share
some-
that, Todd, is there anything that is exposing or private
No,
in that matrix? I haven't looked at it yet.
No.
So.
no, it's
Okay.
just
No.
it's just variables, and they've only started to put in some of the numbers.
Yeah, so
Okay, 'cause
it's only lightly populated. It's only lightly populated, and really what we want to look at is the criteria. And so let me, not that one. Sorry, hold on. Oh, it's in here. Okay. So I have Tony's map. Thank you, Tony. We'll get to that. All right. So one of the things, so just to take a step back, we wanted to be able to create some kind of a quantitative way to evaluate the positives and negatives of the different alternatives. And And so that's one of the reasons that we've asked Erdman Anthony to create these criteria that actually have discrete values to them. So in other words, don't put in something that's subjective like easy, hard. Instead it should be something that's very discrete, like number of easements that are required, so that you can actually look across the board at these individually and to be able to kind of assess them. So some of these, because we've kind of calculated the map, they're able to actually calculate. Some of them they're going to need to dig into the data to be able to populate these cells. But what we want to get feedback from the task force is on these criteria, and if there are others that we haven't included here, what might be useful information to be able to evaluate the strengths and weaknesses of the different alternatives. So obviously construction cost is a big driver. So that'll be an important one. It'll probably be a range because we're not going to know exactly to the detail, but we'll get some sense of what the cost is. Duration, the longer it is, the more phases it might have, the more infrastructure that needs to be built or modified could affect the duration. And so that is a potentially useful criteria. Obviously, the overall length. Some people might look at the extra length as being a positive. Others might see it as a negative, particularly if we're just trying to get from hamlet to hamlet. So there's trail length. And then we also thought, so originally we said no road frontage, and that's why we ended up with bridges along across Route 13. And so we modified that a little bit to be pragmatic, that some short distances with the trail paralleling the road before it goes back off might be a reasonable accommodation. And so that is what trail length adjacent to roadway means. It's basically the trail along a road for that distance. And this is also part of the affordability and complexity, but how much of the trail length goes off the actual rail bed? So Susan, I think there's some background noise in you. Could you maybe mute your mute unless you need to talk with us? Because it seems like there's some background. Susan Ashdown.
Sorry.
Thanks. So then additional easements required. Now that should include landowners who gave us a rail bed easement, but that we might need off rail bed easement to make one of the two alternatives happen. Roadway crossings, and right now,
just to back up, the additional easements required, it seems odd to me that alternative 2 has so many more than alternative 3, because alternative 3 goes all around one big red property, but I'm guessing that's because there's a bunch of tiny little parcels in alternative 2 that would need
yes.
So do you like double check that?
Yeah, I think we will. Yeah, I think we will verify all of those things in terms of accuracy, and also to kind of understand that better, to affirm, alternative 2 or alternative 3 might have just fewer because some of those are big acreage landowners. As opposed to
little ones. Okay.
Right. But what that actually brings up a really good point, and I don't think it's really represented here, is and whether we want this in there or not, but as you're stating, one of the alternatives has the rail the rail trail going essentially in several people's backyards. And that kind of an experience isn't the same kind of experience for trail users as being in more rural areas. And it also may mean more interventions for privacy
I
and
wonder if
security.
something measurable would be the distance from the proposed easement from a dwelling. That would be measurable.
Well, that's a good point.
Yeah. So
Another
so
thing that might be good is
but do
the
you-
length
but
of
before-
the easement on that
before we
property.
jump, hold on, Diane. Before we jump to another thing, what are people's thoughts on that as a criteria of value for evaluating some of these?
Which are you talking about? The number of easements or some measure of them?
No, the distance, from the alternative to residential structures or something like that.
I think that'd be really useful. Yeah. Because like you say, if it's going through someone's backyard, number one, and especially if it's a small property, number one, we're not likely to get that easement. And number two, like you say, it's not very conducive for a trail that, we've so far managed, and on the rail bed, we managed to be pretty reasonable about how it relates to people's properties.
I
Besides
agree. I
already
think
having an easement, yeah.
it does make sense, and I think it also creates a quantitative measurement for something that has a qualitative character to it.
And if I can add a third consideration that I think makes this important is most of the conflicts we have with neighbors of the trail are where they're very close. So when we're going through natural areas and it's just rural, we don't have so many issues. It's when we're near people's yard that there's some trail user neighbor conflicts are more likely to occur.
Great. All right. Thank you all. Any other comments on that before Diane makes her other point?
So
All
the
right,
other thought,
Diane?
the other aspect I thought that might be useful is length of easement required, because I know on some of these it's going like almost all the way around the border of their property. And I'm wondering if people that need to give, say, a mile of easement on their property, whether that would be harder to get, or they might require more compensation somehow, like plant trees.
So, I think that's a great point, Diane. So I know sometimes statistics make things kind of, they can muddy the waters. So, that is an issue of whether we want to kind of look at this by total length or average length, because the average will be affected by the number of easements, and in some ways we have length of off the existing rail bed as a measure. So that's part of what you just said, not all of it though. And also trail length by itself conveys the total length of easements required. I mean, some of that we already have, so that one isn't really split. Trail length versus length of easements, length of current easements versus length of new easements. So maybe we're looking at current versus new easement length.
Yeah, and And I was thinking that it would be on a per property basis, but it won't. You're right. It's going to be one value for the whole alternative, and it may be hard to make sense of it.
But it's a really good
I gotta
point. So
think
we
about
have,
that.
well, so what we have right now, we have total number of easements required, but it doesn't speak to anything more about that. And the maps show what we have for current easements and what we might need for new easements, but it's not quantitative. We don't have a length. So if we put in here that we want as one of the criteria, for each of the three alternatives, how much of that 3.65 miles, 3.87 miles, 4.4 miles, how much of that do we currently have easements to cover? And then for each of those alternatives, how many new miles of easements are needed?
Yeah, I think that
And so
might put it in perspective.
because right now, when you look at 3.65 miles, we don't need, for alternative one, we don't need 3.65 miles of easements. We have that. And I actually I couldn't tell you how much of that we have. It's probably at least a third of that. Okay. This is good. This is what I was hoping to get from
If I could
folks.
just say one thing, Todd, before you go. The number of easements and all the metrics you're talking about become a little bit irrelevant. What we really need to know is which easements we're likely to get. You
Right.
can't put it in the table. But I mean,
It's a good point, Tony, and we're not going to know that. That's not part of this study, because until we actually understand what alternatives are viable, it doesn't make a bunch of sense to go and put all the time into knocking on those doors. I think what we're trying to do is come up with at least some sense of what might be reasonable in terms of obtaining those easements, and so that's part of an indirect way of getting at that, and that's part of the criteria of what we're trying to get in this criteria, because we aren't going to be able to answer your question right now with this study.
yeah, but didn't Bob get potential easements for quite a few of those 16?
So we do have some, but again, like for some of these, like we have an easement across one property on the rail bed, but alternative two has the alignment going off of that of the rail bed easement. We haven't talked to that owner to know if they would entertain that or not.
Okay.
And so that there are some, even with some of the agreements that we have in hand, we can't just make the assumption that those folks would agree to amending that easement.
Another measurable thing about easements might be, going to Diane's point, might be the length of easement required in proportion to the property size. I don't know if that's useful enough to be figuring it, but it would be measurable anyway.
Okay. All right. So I think before we were at roadway crossings, and so then we came up with kind of some environmental parameters. So culverts required is kind of two things. One is cost and maintenance, but also an environmental impact for a stream or intermittent stream or wetland. And so that was just going to be a unique individual number. And then we had wetland impact area, and it's not just the loss of those natural resources, but then there's an associated cost with mitigating those. And then we talked about like permitting and some of the other environmental impacts. And so even though like DEC or one of the permitting agencies wouldn't make us a forest, non-wetland forests, acre by acre, there's a loss of biodiversity, there's an impact for natural areas and habitat, but also there's a complexity. For those of you who remember all the northern long-eared bat things that we needed to do, the surveys, the documentation, there's constraints on construction and tree removal. If you don't do those things between that, it limits you to basically the non-roosting, non-hibernate, or the non-roosting season for tree removals. And so there's some constraints and some permitting issues. And so that kind of got parked in tree removal. Those things in aggregate kind of got parked in tree removal, but it's definitely more than just acres of trees that kind of fall into that bucket. But we tried to create some quantitative environmental and administrative criteria to capture some of those themes. So that's what those were. So thoughts on those or any other criteria that we might want to incorporate into the planning exercise with Erdman, Anthony? All right. Well, I will take these great suggestions that we have, and I'll share them with the planning committee and Ray and Erdman Anthony, and ask them for their thoughts and how they would incorporate some of this feedback into their evaluation matrix for us. And I imagine then after we kind of work through that and kind of see what it is that they come up with, try to get that to a finalized state, and then ask them to populate it and move it forwards. And that would include them starting to do this construction cost as well. Now, just as a reminder, what we put in the contract with Erdman Anthony was that they would do a very high level range of construction costs for these three alternatives, so that we could use that as part of this evaluation. Then the planning, it's my sense that we would review a lot of that within project management committee, and then we would come forward for discussion and recommendation to the full task force of coming up with a preferred alternative. And then once that's decided upon, then we would go back to Erdman Anthony and tell them, this is the preferred alternative, and we would like you to go forward and do a detailed cost costing exercise, so that we can take that money, have a high level of confidence that these are construction ready dollars, and then be able to go to the next major grant opportunity and use those numbers in the grant to be able to complete this this next phase of the project. And so it's kind of a multi-step process, and they're not going to do that high-level detailed costing analysis for all three alternatives. They'll just do that high-level one, and only do that for the one that's the preferred alternative that we finally select for them. All right, any other thoughts on this phase 3 planning before we move to the next agenda item? Okay. All right, so next project management committee update is awaiting DEC decision on NYSEG selection of wetland permit, and there's nothing to report on that. So still waiting. And we have no time frame of when we think we'll hear back from them either. So hopefully I'll have something to update at our next meeting. All right, Outreach and Communications Committee, signs, Todd, Chris, and Sue. So Sue, I actually haven't been out. I've only heard about things kind of secondhand from folks, and I know Chip. I don't see Chip here, and I know Chip has been working on part of this. Do you have any updates on the signs?
Yeah, it's been interesting. So initially, Chip and Diane and I were going to go out and take photos and with GPS coordinates of different locations all up and down the trail. Everything Purvis Road all the way through to Varna. And we started to do that with one thing, with building a database of these are locations of certain things and these are the GPS coordinates. So we thought it'd be nice for us to have that. This was really Chip's idea, to have that database in place so that when we're talking at future meetings, we know GPS coordinates of different locations of things. So Alice and Chip and I went out and started to take photos of different locations where we would want our etiquette signs to be placed, and photos of things that are there, things that might be missing, a mile marker's missing at a certain place, or, we want a welcome sign to be here, or a dog, please take your dog waste with you when you leave sign there. But while we were doing that, the DPW started to actually put the signs up in places that they thought were good. So they're putting up the signs before we were telling them where we wanted the signs to be. And that actually happened while Chip and Diane were out on the trail. So they saw that happening. So Diane got a hold of Rick and tried to put a stop to that, but it kind of kept happening over a couple of days. But eventually that seems to have stopped. And now some of the signs, I know from the Varna section, some of the signs that they had just recently put up, our etiquette signs, have now been taken down from where they put them, but some of them are still there. And let me just back this up and say, so there's some confusion there, and that's one issue. We'll have to kind of sort that out if we want to communicate where we want the signs to them to be, and that the process. I think they got the signs dropped off to them, and they just started putting them up, and apparently there was some miscommunication in all the different levels of communication. But I also I got to set that aside for a minute. I got to share amazing news. The Varna section has amazing resurfacing that's happened in the last week. I don't know if anybody's been out there, but it's like extraordinary. Like they mowed way back. They did a lot of ditching in places that had been remained wet. They elevated. It's wide and level and firm, and like so much wider. There's no more like two tire tracks going through, and the right track is always muddy. It's up there, it's gonna drain well, it's so smooth, it's like riding on a brand new highway right now. I mean, it's not blacktop. You know, it's gravel and sand, but it's just amazing. I've gone out there in the last week, and like every day I go out there and I'm like, ooh, what are they gonna do now? What are they gonna do now? It's like so fun and exciting to see all these improvements. And they
Thank-
and
thanks for sharing,
I
Sue.
just wanted to make a clarification. It was actually, I think, Alice and Chip that looked at all the signs. That I actually did not volunteer, nor have I been out with Chip looking at where the etiquette signs are going.
I'm
But I
sorry.
did ride my bicycle. That's okay. I just for the minutes for Rose.
Yes.
I
Yeah, it was
rode my
out-
bicycle from my house all the way to the end of, well, up to Dryden Lake. I didn't go as far as Purvis Road. And I was looking for these etiquette signs because I'd heard they'd all been put in kind of random and in oftentimes incorrect places. And I actually only saw 2 of them. And they'd been posted to one of the welcome signs, one on top of another. So that was an example of, yeah, we don't want them all bunched up.
Yeah, they put
Right.
some out and then they started taking some of them down, but some of them are still up. It's kind of random, I think, at this point.
Yeah, so there was a bit of a miscommunication, and you know, when I talked with Alice about it, we were kind of weighing the best way to respond, because there's so much good work that DPW is doing, and we don't want to kind of not recognize that and be critical about you know, a few good intentioned things not exactly going to plan. And one of the things that we realized was that the way that the signs are adhered to the signposts is just your regular socket set, standard socket set. And so it would be very easy for us to move and relocate the signs to exactly where we want, because like we were saying, there wasn't really a plan that they were on the welcome signs, the regulation signs. They were to be on all the other places. So when Alice and I were chatting about this, we thought, well, the best way to do it is for us to still complete the plan, that we figure out exactly where we want to see these signs with the feedback that we've been collectively receiving over the past years. For example, to be very intentional about the take your dog waste out with you in the places that we have been seeing the most problems with that, and not just to have them be located randomly. So I think we still want to go ahead and develop the plan. And I think that how we then implement the plan can be a conversation we have with Rick. And we could offer that, you know, if people are willing to do it with the task force members, we could just say, hey, we'll give us the rest of the signs. We'll find all the random signs out there. We'll put them where we like them. And then we'll give you the documentation of where all these are, so that if some go missing or they need to be replaced or whatever it is, you'll know what is supposed to be where. So that's one way. Or we could say, you know, here's the plan. Would you like us to do it, or would you guys prefer to do it, and see what they say, and then kind of go accordingly. So I still think it would be great for us to kind of finish the plan that you, Chip, Sue, you and Chip were working on, for either of those, you know, however we work out the implementation of it, so that there's a clear understanding between us and DPW where these signs are going to end up being.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good to me, and we can continue working on that. I think my impression, I don't want to speak too much for Chip in his absence, but my impression is he's pretty comfortable moving the signs around. I'd be happy to work with that on him, for just to take it off of DPW's list, that we can take them down and move them around. You know, some of them, like Alice and I were particularly looking at, like where Stevenson Road, where the rail crosses Stevenson Road, we want, I think, DPW to install the big welcome sign there. And then we're going to put an etiquette sign or two on that post, but the other signs we can move around. If you don't think, if I don't want to insult them and take it off there, you know, I don't, as long
Right.
as you don't be ruffled by that, I think that's something that we could
Well,
do.
no, I appreciate that. And I think that's a good way. So this just for the benefit of everybody. Um, uh, what I like to do is I like to come to Rick with, whatever the need is and our willingness to help and support that. And then to ask him, what works for you guys. And in doing it that way, not making assumptions about their workload or their priorities or just whatever, because I also know, like you just shared, they love working on the trail. They do a great job. They take a lot of pride in it. And if it's something like, no, we want to do the signs, we want to do them right, so just tell us how to do it and we'll do it, and then we can just facilitate that. Or if it's like, yeah, that's one more thing that we don't have to do, feel free to do it. But we leave that up to Rick to kind of make that call. But either way, we're going to have the right hand and left hand know what's going on, because now they apparently have most of the signs because they've taken them down, and then there's a few that are still out on the trail. So we'll just have to work that out with Rick, but I'm confident we can.
Okay. Yeah, and when you get the chance, go out and ride. Go out to Monkey Run Road and turn left or right, and the trail is like so beautiful right now. It's amazing.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Sue.
I thought that to the right was not going to happen till we got the bridge, but it's happening, right?
They didn't, yeah, they went almost to Route 13. They stopped, a little ways in from Route 13, but they went like all the way out past the Beaver Lodge. Yeah.
Well, so to clarify on that, they were mostly working at, like you were saying, where there were some wet areas on there. So it's not the full ADA trail. It was more of addressing some of the wet areas back there, and that they needed to. There was a culvert back there that I think that was failing and needing to be repaired, and so there was some access needs that were facilitated by this as well. So it's kind of a combination of factors of why they were working on that Monkey Run to 13 section. But they also knew that it was going to be in support of the ADA trail there ultimately.
So I walked it yesterday. It was absolutely wonderful. There are lots of people running, cycling on it, and it's about 10 foot wide.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Bill says. He says there's so many more people on the trail now. He's on it every day, and he said there's so many more people on the trail now. So
That's great.
great.
All right. Well, thank you, Sue, for all of that. So why don't we keep going? Community Connections event. Sue and Gwen.
I thought it was a nice gathering. It was a 2-hour event up at Hopshire from 12 to 2, and it could have been better attended, but it was still really nice to meet the groups. And there were some people that came by. We had, was it, Sue, 4 or 5 signups for the listserv? But I wanted to share a comment that someone had made. 2 young women came up, mothers, and one of the women was sharing the impact the trail had on she and her husband purchased a home. And when they moved to this area, they wanted to buy in a rural area. But when they found a house they liked in Dryden and then learned that the trail was nearby and it was giving them access to a rural feel that they didn't have to maintain, that helped them decide to purchase their home. it was such a positive comment. It was very, very nice to hear. Do you want to add to that, Sue?
Yeah, I thought that was really powerful, and I'd love to capture that. And when we're talking to people about easements, to just let people know this is some other people's experience as neighbors of the trail. You know, she said that she has a young daughter, and they wanted to buy a rural house so that their daughter could learn to hike and ride her little bike out in nature. But then as young parents, they realize the convenience of living in town. You need to run to the store for this and that all the time. And when you have a little kid, it's a lot easier to live in town. And so they were really at a point of not knowing what to do. And then they found a property that was right on the rail trail. It's in the village, but it's on the trail. And it captured the best of both worlds. And they're so delighted. And she really speaks eloquently about how wonderful that is for her family.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that desire to move to a rural area. The worst place I ever lived was out in Newfield. I thought, oh, I'll be out in the country. There's nowhere to walk in the country. You know, you have to
Except
walk
on the
along
road.
roads or walk on somebody's field. There's nowhere to walk in the country. So yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that was wonderful to experience, and a lot of people came up to us at the event and signed up to they're very interested in being stewards. So we talked about that some more.
Right. Yep.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both for being part of that and reporting on it. Should we move on to trail stewards? Speaking of.
Yeah. Actually, so the young couple that live on Purvis Road that are very interested in being stewards and have some other young professionals that they're friends with. They were both at the event at Hopshire because they're involved with the composting program. And so I got to talk to them a little bit more, and they've actually been doing a lot of pretty heavy duty stuff down there. They were very familiar with, it sounds like they've already hauled out in the past, they have hauled out some larger debris and big bags of garbage and some tires just on their own somehow. And they were talking to me about there's a certain area down there that particularly in the spring when the snow melt comes, a lot of debris washes down towards the trail from somewhere else. Unfortunately, she and I, Evan's wife was talking with me, and she and I didn't have a lot of time to talk, but I'm planning to get together with them this coming week to go down at Purvis Road and talk with them and hear a little bit more about their experience. Because she was suggesting, like, if we're going to have people pick up trash, we might want to do trainings for like, because they found all kinds of stuff, particularly in areas where other people's trash has blown or drifted towards the rail trail. They found some I'll just say some unsavory things. And if volunteers are going to be picking these things up, we want to make sure that people are trained and prepared to not have, suffer any harm from collecting this debris. And she had a lot of ideas about that, which made me then kind of, I really want to talk to them in a little bit calmer, more, environment than what we were experiencing at Hopshire. To just go down there and see what they're talking about and hear what they've experienced and see how we want to integrate that into the steward guidelines. So so I have not drafted the invitation to stewards yet because I wasn't quite sure about the Tony, thank you for having the map here today. I wasn't sure about the boundaries, and I also am just wanting to, I think, have another subcommittee meeting to talk about what are we going to actually ask the stewards to do. And I think it's going to be a work in progress because I think it may be very different in certain areas than in other areas. And we want to keep it friendly and welcoming and comfortable for people who are going to volunteer. But we also, I think, want to just be realistic too. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing that, Sue. I actually know that area that they're talking about because one of our natural areas is along that section of trail. And and just to be clear, the Shug section is a little different than the rest of the trail. The town actually owns the 66-foot wide railroad bed corridor there. It's not an easement. And I say that because it matters to a degree, because here, the area that you're talking about ended up getting used as a dump where people were throwing debris and tires and various things. That's really kind of heavy trash,
Yeah.
and definitely more in the job description of DPW than
Yeah.
in our trail stewards to try to clean up. I think our expectation for the trail stewards is, the random, tossed litter, not cleaning up a dump site or hazardous materials. So that, I think that would be good to clarify. But on the safety and training side, that is a really valid point. I remember going through that training and providing some of that training for my staff for things like how to recognize a pile of trash is discarded meth lab materials as opposed to just a pile of random trash,
Okay.
or things that may be infectious, proper handling for those, and what people are using to pick up various things so that they minimize their exposure to that. And so, for example, we've provided for our staff that picks up trash, we give them the little grippers, long stick with the little squeeze handle and the little pincher cup thing, so that you don't have to bend over, you don't have to get your hands on whatever the thing is or whatever might spill out from it as you put it in your bag, as part of that. But there's not any expectation that, that's wonderful that the neighbors at Purvis did that, that heavy trash cleanup, but that's not something I would have expected our trail stewards to. Now I could see them reporting that to us and reporting that to DPW as part of their roles, but not then, oh, by the way, figure out how to clean it up and dispose of all that stuff.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and I remember you shared some of that last time, Todd, and I shared some of that with them, that, you don't have to do that. You report to us, and then we'll send a crew with a pickup truck, and they can haul it away, and like, oh, that'd be great. So I didn't realize that there was a dump in that area. So that explains it, because they were finding things that were not normal litter you would find on a trail.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that it's not uncommon because it's vehicle accessible, right? In order for DPW to maintain it, so people can get off the road, drive into the trail a couple 100 feet, and get rid of a bunch of stuff that really shouldn't be dumped, but it happens.
Mhm.
So we have a new section map from Tony, and any more conversation about the trail stewards. Tony, do you want me to share the map, or allow you to share it?
No, why don't you, if you can, just share it. I would appreciate people looking to see if there are any mistakes still or things they'd like me to add. Please discard the previous one I sent round, because I discovered a mistake in it. I sent one, I think, a month ago or so. This was completely remade, and it was specifically set up to easily highlight all the sections that we had decided on.
Is this zoomed in enough for everybody's view?
What Todd sent around was a rather small, relatively small file that is not very good. The original file, which unfortunately is about a gigabyte, is too big to, but you can see every tree.
So it looks like we have Game Farm to Stevenson, Stevenson to Mount Pleasant, Mount Pleasant to Monkey Run to 13, 13 to Pinckney, Pinckney to Etna, and then TBD on this. Johnson to Freeville Village Hall, I think, right?
Yeah,
Village Hall to
that's actually the water treatment plant.
okay. So that one's kind of because that's a long in between road section. You decided to split that into two.
Yep.
So the treatment plant to George to zoom in more.
The Spring House.
Springhouse
Greenhouse, yep.
to 13. 13 to Keith Lane. That's quite a long section there, for sure.
I was kind of wondering if through the village like that, where there's actually some other road crossings, that it might make sense to split that up into one from Agway to I can't remember the name of that road where your cross is.
Right here. There's a
Yeah.
parking lot there.
Yeah, there's a road cross. Well, I don't know what the road name is there, but basically Route 13 to that road.
Is it
Right,
Freeville?
but isn't this also where there's a parking lot and a trailhead?
That's a Weber Street.
Oh, Weber, Rebel, right.
Right.
The name's
But
on.
am I remembering that right?
Oh, no. Oh, that's 38.
Yeah, that's
Well, no, this is 38, but this
Yeah.
right in this corner right here of
the parking
Oh, yeah.
lot.
of 38 and Weber,
Yeah.
isn't there a parking lot?
Yep.
Yes, there's like 2 spaces or three spaces or something. But I was thinking 13 to 38, because aren't there, that seems like a fairly, it's near a lot of people that probably use that section, and it might be, small enough that, I'm wondering if it might be worth to, split up section 3 there into 2.
We can
So
easily
then
do that.
it would be Weber to Keith, Keith to Westlake, Westlake to Purvis.
Yeah.
I think I saw that Pinckney Road was misspelled. I'm not 100% sure of that, but might want to check that.
And I'm also wondering if section 1, if from Purvis Road to, was it East Lake Road, if that could be a subsection, because I think there are going to be a lot of people that just walk the Purvis Road stretch, and then there are going to be people that just walk the Dryden Lake stretch between Dryden Lake Park and East Lake Road. So it might make sense to split those up further. Because I'm thinking in terms of volunteers, and how we may be able to engage volunteers with slightly smaller sections in those cases.
Okay, I can easily do that, and that would give us 19 sections, and I'll just renumber them all.
Okay. That sounds great.
Does that make sense? I mean, is that okay?
Chris, I love your idea of engaging more people, and in those population dense areas, there are more people using the trail. So let's give more of them some sense of ownership.
Yeah. Okay. And thanks, Tony. And thanks, Sue.
I'll get it to you tomorrow, I hope.
And Tony, do you have the ability to send like a Dropbox link to the full resolution file? Or something like that,
I probably could.
Okay.
You guys are much more savvy than me. I'm terrible at computers. and they never agree with me. Let me just do it, and then I'll send you an email asking you how you want me to do it.
Okay.
Chris, if you create the Box account and then add Tony as the editor to it,
Yeah. He
it
should
might
be
be a
able to
lot
do it.
easier.
So I'll be sending an Illustrator file.
Yeah. That's fine. If I give you the invitation to or access to the Dropbox location as an editor, like Todd suggested, then you should be able to just copy that large Illustrator file right into that Dropbox location.
Okay. I'll see if I can make a large JPEG as well.
Okay,
For people
that's
who don't have access to Illustrator.
Diane has access to Illustrator,
Okay.
so, and I think Todd, you also have Illustrator. No? Oh, okay.
Great. Well, thank you all. This is exciting. All right, anything else on trail stewards and volunteers?
Nope.
Okay, moving on, trail amenities. So Rose, it seems like you were very generous and solved a short-term problem for us. So thank you very much. You want to elaborate?
Yeah, we are signed up with RTG Rentals to Go, and that's the company who services the porta potty by the little village recreation area on Groton Avenue. So it was an easy thing to do because they just set it up on a Thursday and they come back every Thursday in service. So we're all set, and I've signed us up for 3 months there, and hopefully everybody's happy. I have not gone to see how frequently it's used, so I have no idea, but it does solve one public relations problem.
Is the ice cream lady
was-
thrilled about this?
That was very thoughtful of you, Rose. Thank you.
Yes,
That's awesome.
The-
Thank you.
happy to do it.
So I'll share a related anecdote here. Some of you may know some of the history of Cornell Outdoor Education and David Mora that kind of kickstarted it all, and he has a great sense of humor. And up here at Mount Pleasant at their Hoffman's Challenge course, they have a lot of other facilities, and they were in need of some facilities out there. And so long story short, they ended up creating a composting toilet, a pair of composting toilets in this really nice facility. And in his honor, it was bestowed with the name of Morrell Hall on the facility. So if any of you are interested in a naming opportunity for facilities in Freeville down the road, just keep that in mind. We'll take donations for anything. All right. Well, thank you very much, Rose. That was great.
Sure.
Marion, mini forest update.
Okay, thanks, Todd. So I'll just give a little update about what we might do with that site, which is by the cement factory off of Pinckney Road. And I was thinking that this fall, we might be able to identify some of the woody, non-native plants that we would want to remove, and we could cut them and paint the stumps with a herbicide. And then I began to think, I wonder if the town of Dryden requires someone with a herbicide application certificate to supervise work like that, or is this something that we could just do? So I thought, well, I'll just ask the committee, because probably somebody knows what the pesticide use rules are. in Dryden. But does anybody have an idea what, can we just go to the Agway and get a paintbrush and paint the stumps with the herbicide? Or do we need to have, this is on Dryden property, do we need to have somebody from the DPW who's a certified pesticide applicator to supervise that?
Well, technically, it's not Dryden property. It's still privately owned, but that Dryden has an easement for the trail, and I honestly don't know Dryden's policy. New York State provides exemptions for homeowners and property owners to be able to apply herbicides that are sold over the counter, like you're saying at Agway, on that property. But I don't believe that extends to other properties where commercial pesticide applicator licenses are required for that. And so, so that might be an issue. I think it would be a question to the town to understand if there are different, if there are somehow other regulations or other things that I'm unaware of, or that anyone else here is unaware of, and whether or not DPW has people that are licensed that could do that, I don't know.
So, Todd, who should I reach out to find out about this?
So maybe if you just write up a paragraph on the question, and you can send it to me, and then I can copy you and Alice, and probably send it to Dan and ask him to see who else it needs to go to in the, or you could just send it to Alice, Dan, and me, and we can all follow up on it.
Okay, that sounds good. So once we get this cleared with the town, then I would like to choose a date in late October to go and mark the trees. And then, if we need to have someone there to supervise the cutting and application, that we would do that this fall. And then in the spring, we would be ready to plant the first set of red cedars, and then another set in the fall. So that's basically the timeline that I was thinking of. So Judy, what do you, I see Judy.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if the trees have to be actively growing when we actually paint the stumps. Todd might know that.
Actually, no. But fall is one of the best times for that.
But
to
late
happen
October,
because-
is that too late?
No, it's
No.
not. So
Good.
the trees are taking the trees or invasive shrubs are putting their resources down into the
That's
stem, in the root systems. But the herbicide actually is moved through capillary action, not from the respiration of the trees. And so,
Right.
So it's more physics than it is
Okay,
the time of the year.
Good.
The only time that it works very poorly is in the spring when the sap is flowing and it washes the herbicide off.
great. Okay, that's good to know. Perfect.
Yeah, good. It's I had done it before in the fall, not knowing why, but I guess it's good to know what the reason is.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I will do that. I'll follow up with a proposal to Todd and Alice and Dan, and we'll take it from there. Any other thoughts or ideas for this?
Well, it might be good to look at like dates, preferred dates, alternate dates, and times. This seems like a great opportunity. I know there's a lot of people on the listserv that have wanted to help in lots of different ways, and community, a community tree planting and being involved with that different aspects of that can be one of those really nice kinds of opportunities, and to bring in some other people in their engagement. So that might be having dates and times in advance for the different parts of the project helps when you're recruiting people, because they can then put it on their calendar and hopefully keep that day open.
Okay, so I can think about a sort of comprehensive plan with some suggested dates, and I'll bring that up at the next meeting, I guess.
Great.
After. Okay.
All
and
right. Well,
I just wanted to say that when we get to announcements, I have a couple of announcements to make.
okay.
But-
Wonderful. Thank you, Marion. All right. Peace pole and benches. So just I'll have a brief update. So Rick approved the peace pole location, general location, and then we asked that he and the folks from the Kiwanis Club meet on site to actually mark the specific location, so that it fit within the visitor use needs and what the utilities are underneath the ground and all of that kind of thing. So that should be moving ahead. And kind of as an anecdote to this, or as a side, Rick went to the village to make sure that they were on board with this. And they said, you don't really need to come to the village for these kinds of things, because the trail in the village of Dryden is the town's responsibility. So, it had gone kind of back and forth a bit over time, apparently. And, but now it seems, and I know that this was like a month ago, or not a month ago, but like a year ago, when we were working on the state parks grant and making sure that we had all the easements in place so that we could get reimbursed. And we needed to make some tweaks to the one in Freeville, and then they made some changes to the one in Dryden. And so it's easy to lose track of some of those things over the course of time. But anyway, so that's just a helpful reminder from Rick to us and vice versa, that is DPW's maintenance responsibility within the town, and that goes to amenities there as well.
Can I ask you something, Todd, after you're finished?
Sure.
I'm just wondering who will contact me once Rick has laid out where the benches are going to go, because then I need to get Linda and her family there to say, is this exactly where you want it? But I don't know if he has laid those out yet.
So this is the in and among the same conversation I had with Rick a couple weeks ago on both of these topics, and I wanted to clarify process, because what Rick had shared with me previously was what you and I were doing, which was to send all the information, the specific location, a map, some photographs, a description, and then DPW would mark it, contact us, and then it would be validated by you and the donor. And so that's what I understood from Rick, and that's initially, and that's what I conveyed to you, and then that's what you and Linda did. And then I had shared all that information with Rick, maybe a couple months ago, a month and a half ago. So in the call I had with him recently, we kind of went over that again. And it's like, well, we were following, your suggestion. And he's like, well, we need to know where it's at. And, it'd be best if it was really clear to everybody, and maybe have the donors or you go out there and mark it. And I said, well, we gave you all the information that you asked for. It's really detailed. You should be able to go out there with that information and know exactly where it's supposed to be. And this part, maybe, Rose, you could leave out of the meeting minutes, but it's a little bit like the sign thing. And this isn't like being critical.
Mhm.
There's a lot of communication that happens within DPW, from Rick to then the next person,
Right, right.
and that seems to be sometimes where some of these hiccups happen. So we shall see. But where we landed on was to do the plan the way that he originally suggested and what you guys did. And so I forwarded the email that we put together with all that information to him again. And he said that they would go out and mark it and let us know, and then you and Linda can go out and verify. So kind of waiting.
That's fine. And yet, if they do want us to go out there and mark it with tape or something, I could organize a little walk with them and go out and take some pink tape and, do it.
So I think, yeah, if either it doesn't happen or there's some other hiccups in here, it might just be that we do that, and maybe it's more like, let's pick a time where everybody goes out to these two locations
Would
all
that
together.
include Rick? Would that include Rick?
Yeah, or whoever he decides to delegate it to. Right?
Okay. And you.
So, but I'll I think let's see how this plays out before we come up with a plan B.
Okay, that's fine. Just
And,
check.
and I hope Linda is if Linda loses patience, let me know and I can.
It's more likely that Ari will lose patience. Okay, that's fine.
I just wanted to say with the Furger bench, Judy, that's what Bob and I did. We went out with the family and marked and walked along to see where they wanted it.
Right.
And then we marked it. And then Rick went,
Right.
I think, Todd, I think I have this right. Rick went and put the bench where it was marked.
Good.
Okay.
Yep, that's what we had decided with the Furgers.
Mhm.
We told them to decide where it was,
Yeah.
which is what we did with Linda, but they didn't actually mark it.
Oh, okay. We marked it.
They marked it on photographs with,
Oh, okay.
they took
Not on a
photographs
drawing.
and put markers and gave the exact coordinates,
Yeah.
took pictures of it.
Okay.
Good. Maybe that's what we should do going forward. Because
Well, this will be a good way to determine if we should change our protocols. So.
Okay. I mean, he originally wanted that, I thought. It's okay. Thanks.
All right. So I think that does it for protocols and memorial benches and kiosks. Is there any other trail amenities items?
Can I ask a quick question about benches?
Uh-huh.
I noticed when I was photographing benches, we have a number of benches that are already installed that do not have a memorial plaque. And I was just wondering, are those available if someone wanted to make a donation and put a plaque? Or were those
Yes.
donated and the people just didn't want a plaque? Or
So we bought a number of benches with the state parks grant, so that we had some amenities along the trail, with the intent that those could become memorial benches.
Okay.
And then we held back some benches that would be available to be installed in particular areas that people had special attachments to if they wanted a memorial bench at a particular location. So it was meant to be some of both. But we also didn't expect that all the benches that were placed along the trail would become memorials.
Okay. Okay, thank you. If people ask me, I just like to know those things.
Great. All right, any other trail amenities? All right, announcements, Marion.
Thank you. Thank you, Todd. So I wanted to announce two things that Trees Up Tompkins will be doing in the next month. For the last couple of years, a group of people have been going after the invasive privet at a site near the golf course in Ithaca, between the golf course and the lake, and planting native trees as they remove the privet. And so there'll be a kind of ceremonial opening of a small trail there. And this trail features 9 species that are culturally significant to the Guayacona culture. And there are QR codes on the trees that lead to stories that are told by Stephen Henhock about these different species and how they were used. So the documentary film production group at Ithaca College did this as a project, and the opening will take place on Sunday morning, October 5th at 10 o'clock. So people will have a chance to walk the trail and listen to the stories at that point. And the second thing is a birthday party for the Miyawaki Forest that's at the Soil Factory. The Soil Factory is a community center near the Ithaca Brewery, and Trees Up Tompkins has put a Miyawaki forest with 250 trees of 22 native species planted last September. And so we thought, well, let's have a first birthday party for the forest, and that will be on October 19th, from starting around 3 o'clock. So we'll be in the forest, and we may do some additional planting as well. And if the weather cooperates and it's not too chilly or wet, there'll be some music and dance that was created for the birthday party, and a cake, of course. So the Soil Factory is located at the very end of Ithaca Beer Drive. So as you go into if you're going to the brewery, you take a right-hand turn. If you don't take that right-hand turn, you just keep going, and eventually the road ends, and that's where the Soil Factory is.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Marion. Oh, go ahead.
Questions are yeah, you can send me an email for more info.
Thanks.
Thanks for sharing that, and for all the great work that Trees Up Tompkins is doing, and also just celebrating community and the collaborations that and the successes that folks have is very welcome. So I like that very much.
Mhm.
Yeah, this has been a fun project, despite the mosquitoes.
All right. Any other announcements or things that people want to mention?
Not an announcement, but I'd like to get Sue and Gwen. I will be coming home to Ithaca tomorrow,
Oh,
And I would like to get I guess I'd like to, I don't want to lose, but I would like to move the cardboard train as soon as I can. So
okay.
it just happens to be where Bill wants me to put the beans that I pick when I get home. So
Oh,
the winter beans. So
okay.
Yeah, I'd be happy to help you out with that. To
And I'll be home.
support it. Yeah. You can send me a message when you get home and you're ready to do that, and then the
Yeah.
three of us will talk and pick a time.
okay, yeah, if it can be in the next few days, that'd be fantastic.
That's fine.
Good.
Thanks.
Welcome home.
Yeah, thanks. I don't know what's home anymore. I'm
That's
so
both.
so
Second,
comfortable
first
here.
home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've never had two homes, but this is great.
All right. Any other things that folks have? Or we'll go to next meeting. So a month from now, October 20th, and we should be back in village or town hall for that one. So you can mark your calendars. So if there isn't anything else, then we can say have a pleasant evening to everyone, and look forward to working with you all in so many different positive ways to keep this project moving forward. So thank you all for everything that you do, and have a nice evening.
Thanks for officiating
Thank you.
here, Todd.
Yeah,
Yes, thanks,
Yeah,
Todd.
thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
good meeting. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
Bye.